Ready, Cap? Okay. All right. It's like church. Everybody's quiet. All right. We're going to get rolling. Thank you very much, Captain. So, first off, a warm welcome to see so many faces today. On behalf of the Jefferson County Chiefs and Sheriff Association, this is one of those great honors that we have, and it's been such a difficult year. I'm very thankful to all of our county partners that facilitated this today, especially Sheriff Milbrath, Chief Parker, and everybody else. So what I would request everybody to do is please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Okay. If you would join me. Oh, I'm sorry. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Ready. Thank you all. Please be seated. What a wonderful team effort with our honor guard. Hey, so I'm really proud of that unit. So our association has been in existence for many, many years. And this past year, 2020, in the law enforcement community has been especially difficult. 2020 brought the pandemic. 2020 brought civil unrest. 2020 brought riots. But 2020 also brought some really great things with the teamwork of law enforcement through our mobile field force countywide to the great actions that you're going to hear about today of law enforcement officers who, in the wake of some of the toughest situations us as executives and our officers and deputies on the street have faced, they did it with grace, courage, honor, compassion, and unbelievable bravery. To everybody that lives in this county, you should be especially proud of the sheriff's office, of your local police departments, and of the great things that they do day in and day out, many times without thanks. So trying to be very positive here because there is a lot of positive, especially in our county with the professionals that you see sitting around the room today. So what I would like to do to start with is I would like to now introduce Sergeant Matthew Cantors of the Jefferson County Sheriff's Office, who will be our first presenter, presenting the Jefferson County Chiefs and Sheriff's Officers Association of the Year Award. And just as a quick reminder, the awards, the way they work in our bylaws, so we have several awards: Law Enforcement Officer of the Year, our Citizen of the Year Award, our Community Excellence Award, our Support Person of the Year Award, and our President's Award. These nominations start in the fall. They're nominated by, it can be anybody, for great pieces of work. So that's kind of how we get here today. Chiefs Kaminsky, Chief Sorensen, DA Hall, are the ones that they are the ones that absolutely take the time and put these awards together for me. So with that, Sergeant Captors.
Thank you, Chief. Good afternoon. It's an honor to be here today to honor Detective Gary Curtis for an outstanding job that he did back in August of 2020. And I've been asked just to basically read my little write-up. Everybody hear me okay? Association Awards Committee. This letter is being written on behalf of Detective Gary Curtis because of the outstanding job he did performing a water rescue on Lake Koshkonong. On the date of August 9th, 2020, Detective Gary Curtis is signed up to work on the boat patrol during the hours of 7 a.m. to 4 p.m. Detective Curtis was patrolling and enforcing boating laws in the area of the Rock River and Lake Koshkonong. At approximately 3:12 p.m., Detective Curtis was dispatched to the area located on Lake Koshkonong near Black Hawk Bluff Drive to a report of 3 people in the water and in distress. The initial information from dispatch advised that the caller was in a boat located in the grid area of I-6, and the caller described the boat that she was in as a blue and white boat. At the time, Detective Curtis responded with lights and sirens to the area of I-6 on Lake Koshkonong. As Detective Curtis neared the area of the grid I-6, he asked dispatch to check with the caller to see if they could observe his emergency lights. The caller advised that they could. A short time later, Detective Curtis located the blue and white Bayliner boat with one female occupant who was later identified as the caller. As Detective Curtis approached the boat, he was able to identify the subject as a 14-year-old juvenile female. Once Detective Curtis made contact, he was advised by the female that her friend, another 14-year-old, was in the water clinging to a red throwable flotation device approximately 200 yards south of the boat. Detective Curtis made his way over to the female in the water. Once he arrived, he contacted the female asking where her father was. The female did not know where her father was, but she did advise that she believed her brother was somewhere in the water south of her location, towards the area of Bingham's Point. Detective Curtis performed a scan of the area and observed another person in the water approximately 300 to 400 yards from the female's original location. Knowing that the female was safe at the time with a flotation device, Detective Curtis proceeded cautiously towards the area where he observed the other subject in the water. As Detective Curtis approached the subject, he observed a young juvenile male wearing a blue flotation vest, and he also observed an adult male clinging with one arm around the juvenile male. The adult male did not appear to be wearing a life jacket. As Detective Curtis made contact, he could tell that the adult male appeared to be exhausted, with the color of his upper body and head purple and red in color. Detective Curtis then threw a red throwable flotation device in the direction of both the subjects, however they could not reach it. Detective Curtis then threw a buoy attached to a rope, however the adult was unable to hold on to the buoy. Detective Curtis was then able to get the boat maneuvered around in a safe manner to be able to get the male juvenile out of the water and safely on board. Next, he was able to get the adult male out of the water and on board as well. Once both the males were on board, Detective Curtis was able to advise dispatch of the complaint of illness so that all information could be relayed to EMS, who was standing by on shore. Detective Curtis then made his way back to the area where the female was in the water, still holding onto the red flotation device. Detective Curtis was able to get her out of the water and safely on board the boat. Once all the subjects were out of the water and safe, Detective Curtis then went back towards the caller and advised her that he was going to take these 3 to shore first and that he would respond back to get her to shore safely. Detective Curtis relayed all information to dispatch, and he proceeded to the boat launch located at the end of Charlie Bruff Road, where he was met by fellow Sheriff's Department personnel as well as Milton EMS. All 3 subjects were turned over to Milton EMS for further treatment. A short time later, Detective Curtis, accompanied by Sergeant Chad Handro, went back to the area of the lake where the original caller was still waiting in her boat. Sergeant Handro entered the boat and was able to safely get the boat as well as the female back to shore. Had it not been for Detective Curtis's dedication and outstanding commitment to his profession, I believe that this situation would have been a much different outcome. I believe that all people involved are truly thankful that Detective Curtis was on duty that day. That's all.
Thank you very much. Are we doing pictures here? Yes. There he is, the picture man. We'll take it outside in front of the flag. Thank you. Thank you very much. Good deal. You want to say anything? Yeah. Please do.
First of all, I want to thank Sergeant Matthew Canners for nominating me for this award, and for the Jefferson County Chiefs and Sheriffs Association for selecting me as Officer of the Year. I'm humbled by the award, but obviously appreciative. I'm sure it was a hard decision to make, given the field of officers and the variety of the incidences that the board had to consider. I also want to thank the Jefferson County Sheriff's Office, the county board, and the citizens of Jefferson County for supporting boat patrol. I think it's an important part of the ops department. I wanted to say a couple things about the incident that summer day in August on Lake Koshkonong. This wouldn't have been a successful outcome if it wasn't just for one person's actions, but it was for the actions of everybody involved. It started out with dispatcher Kendall Johnson being able to gather the critical information for the location so that the boat could be found. She was dealing with whom I can only conceive would be a panicked 14-year-old who was now separated from her family and drifting further and further away. I think the girl in the boat did a great job of giving dispatcher Johnson critical information, which allowed me to find the boat in the first place. And then the kids that were in the water, 14-year-old daughter that was in the water, she did a great job of directing me to her 10-year-old brother. I give the brother credit for having the wherewithal to follow his father, because if he didn't, it probably wouldn't have ended the way it did. And then the help of the deputies, Deputy Pete Patansky, Corey Crow, Sergeant Chad Handrell, they all helped out, taking the people off the boat, wrapping them in blankets, gathering information, dealing with panicked parents, and then retrieving the remaining girl that was out on the water. So I guess what I'm saying is this is not just a single person's event. It's kind of a group effort. I also think we had some help from above that day. What's not in the report is that there was a severe thunderstorm, heavy rains, lightning within about a half hour of the incident. I know for a fact if that would have hit during the incident, it probably wouldn't have turned out the way that it did. So again, I want to thank the Chiefs and Sheriffs Association for selecting me for Officer of the Year. Appreciate it. Thanks.
Thank you very much. So next I have the privilege. Oh, vaccines are coming and so are the testing. So we can take these things off hopefully by sometime this year, maybe next. So I have the privilege to introduce the presenter for our next award, the Jefferson County Chiefs and Sheriffs Community Excellence Award. And that'll be presented by Deputy Kyle Vandezan of the Jefferson County Sheriff's Office. Deputy Vandezan, could you step forward, please, sir?
This is Ruben. He's laying down because sometimes he shows excitement with more than just a smile on his face. I had the pleasure of nominating Archie Monuments and Wayne and Lib for the Business of the Year. I'm going to take a moment and read the letter that I wrote up for them. Archie Monuments has been a huge supporter of the Jefferson County Sheriff's Office for many years, especially the K-9 program. This goes back to 2015 and 2016 when Deputy Jason Beam decided the K-9s that had served our counties were not getting the recognition or remembrance that they deserved. Deputy Beam had recently put down his first K-9, Deuce, following a lifetime of service. He felt that it was not fair that their memories faded away after all the dedication his and other K-9s had given. Deputy Beam reached out to a local business, Archie Monuments, looking for a way to immortalize them. Deputy Beam worked with Jeff from Archie Monuments, as well as, I'm sure, other people, to turn a thought and a simple drawing into an amazing memorial in front of the sheriff's office. Not only did Jeff show extreme patience throughout his process with Deputy Beam at the time, but Archie Monuments made sure the dream would come true by donating a majority of the plaques, monuments, and engraving for the memorial. Since the monument has been constructed, Archie Monuments has added the engraving of each K-9's dates of service to that memorial. In 2020, the owners of Archie Monuments, Wayne and Lib, again found a way to support the Sheriff's Office K-9 program. Wayne and Lib have always held dogs close to their hearts. They have owned several dogs, but their favorite was a poodle named Reuben. Sorry, Bentley. Wayne and Lib wanted to find a way to honor their late Reuben. Wayne and Lib were able to accomplish this goal by working with a local foundation, Let's Go K-9, to donate $16,000 for not only the newest K-9, but the training of the newly named handler as well. Their only request was that the K-9 carry the same name of the dog they wanted to honor, Reuben. I personally met Wayne in 2016 on a traffic stop. Wait, there's more. Don't worry, we get into detail. Late on an evening, I had observed a vehicle with its trunk open outside of Archie Monuments. Thinking this was suspicious, I conducted a traffic stop on the vehicle as the vehicle left the business. The driver identified himself as Wayne, and he was leaving his business after a long day of work. Wayne voiced his appreciation that evening of the sheriff's office protection of his business. I never thought 4 years later I would be at his kitchen table enjoying cake as he and Lib told me about the donation they wanted to make to the K-9 unit and to me. It was through their donation that the sheriff's office was able to purchase its newest K-9, and I could train with my new partner. Their generosity has not ended either. Just like the first Reuben, they make sure that K-9 Reuben wants for nothing. Anytime Reuben stops by their home or business, they will not let him leave without an empty stomach or short on pets. Archie Monuments was a major contributor to K-9 Fest this past year and are represented at any fundraiser with donations for silent auctions. These donations are imperative since the K-9 unit is funded through these donations. Not only has Archie Monuments ensured that K-9s of Jefferson County will be immortalized with the memorial, but continue to make sure that the K-9 unit has the donations and the K-9s to protect and serve the community. Please help me show our appreciation for their generosity by considering them for this award. I personally want to say thank you for everything that you've done for me, for this department, and for this community with the donations that you guys have made as a couple and as a business. It doesn't go unnoticed. Thank you.
Like to step forward and say a few things?
I didn't tell him about the possible speech.
Oh.
Sorry, Wayne.
Sorry about that. So come on up to the podium.
There you go.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you very much.
That's very nice. Very nice. Well, first, I'd like to thank Deputy Kyle for recommending us for this award. And it's been just a wonderful thing to work with Ruben and to see him start as a basically adult puppy that didn't know much of anything to come into a really fine police dog's made quite a few arrests with Kyle. And we will continue to, when we can, to help with this program any way it's needed. I'm accepting this award, for all my employees. I'm sorry, it's quite emotional, but again, I want to thank all my employees for everything they do for us and making these kind of things possible. Thank you.
Thank you, Deputy Van de Zandt. Our next award will be the County Chiefs and Sheriff Association Support Person of the Year, presented by Jefferson County Captain Travis Mays. Captain Mays? Somebody doesn't want you to come up here, huh, Travis? All right, let me get out of here. That's my mask.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for allowing me this opportunity to present my nomination. I'll just have one thing real quick here for you, is that if there's any grammatical errors, it's because my ace over here, Brenda, wasn't able to check my work before I submitted it because she was out of the office. So, right, Brenda? To say that the year 2020 has been challenging to all of us would be an understatement. Unfortunately, it has been harder on some than others, which leads me to my nomination to the Committee for Support Person of the Year. It is my honor to nominate Brennan Attardi for this recognition. Brennan has been with our agency for 26 years and has always had a positive attitude and smile on her face. She started off as a dispatcher and eventually moved into her current position as a patrol secretary. Over the years, Brenda has continued to keep up with her dispatching skills to assist us when we need her to jump back into the chair and help out. When I filled out Brenda's evaluation for the first time last year, I informed her that this was the easiest evaluation I'd done in my 8 years of being a supervisor, and I truly meant that, Brenda. She is the epitome of a team player, always willing to help out, take on extra work, and extremely respectful to her coworkers, the public, and society in general. As you are reading this, you probably have thought about individuals in your own agencies that show these same qualities. You might be asking yourself, what makes my nomination of Brenda stand out? The answer is that Brenda's been fighting cancer for over the past 6 months. She was given a diagnosis and a treatment plan and took the straightforward approach to defeat it. That didn't work, and she was told she needed to follow this other treatment plan. She again went with the suggested treatment, and that too didn't work. While all this was happening to her, she continued to show up at work, put in extra hours, and helped us navigate the COVID-19 pandemic by not working remotely at home, like a lot of our staff was, and came into work every day. After the first 2 treatment options were unsuccessful, option 3 was presented, which entailed chemo. Brenda, like she had done in the past, took the recommended treatment plan and went straight at it. Now, one might think that this would be the time where you would stay at home, relax, work on your recovery. Not Brenda. She requested that we bring her as much of her office to her home so she could continue to work and help the agency and the citizens of Jefferson County by working in between her chemo treatments. Who was going to deny her wishes after all she had been through? Not me, so a home office was established for her. Brenda's continued to produce excellent quality work, and I think she might be putting in more hours than before based on her electronic communications with me. Brenda is one of a kind, in my opinion. I don't know many, if any, other individuals that would continue to be as dedicated as Brenda. I hope Brenda is selected for this recognition and that we can all thank her as she finishes chemo and braces for radiation treatment next. I'd like to say right now that she has finished chemo. She just finished her 20th radiation treatment. I believe we got 10 small ones left. Then we're going to kick this thing, right? So I guess it is my honor now, since the committee did select her to say Sport Person of the Year and Cancer Survivor, hopefully, Brennan Attardi.
Thank you all so much. This is such a great honor. I was shocked that I was chosen as this recipient when I've only been working half a year in person, but I have been working from home. I'm really thankful to the committee for selecting me, for Captain Mays and Chief Parker for recommending me for this award. I'd like to thank my family for being here today. It's from my family that I learned my work ethic, which is go to work every day. You're not feeling well, you still go to work. You work hard. You help everybody out. You do your best. And that's what I do. I'm here to help everybody. I'm hoping to be back to work in a few weeks and already making plans to help out in the dispatch center since they are short-staffed. I just appreciate this opportunity. I'm very excited about this award. Thank you all.
Thank you, Captain Mays. And again, congratulations, Brenda. So well deserved. We did try to get her over at the city PD, but she wouldn't come over. Something about her dad worked there or something at one time. I don't know. Her brother did too, come to think of it. It's been like, oh my goodness. So I have the privilege myself of doing the Jefferson County Chief's Sheriff Citizen of the Year. And this citizen must remain anonymous for investigative purposes. So I'm just going to read this to you. During 2020, a Jefferson County law enforcement agency received a call from a person we will refer to hereforth as CI6. CI6 made the police agency aware of possible drug trafficking situation. Over the next several months, CI6 contacted an agency's officer almost daily. Well over 100 messages were provided to this Jefferson County law enforcement agency. These messages included detailed info that provided specific vehicles, making short-term contacts, pictures of license plates when possible safely, and information about the quote-unquote target having a firearm. Due to the intel being provided by CI6, this law enforcement agency focused patrol in the area of the target residence. Thanks to some real tips, some law enforcement was able to contact vehicles leaving the target residence. One attempted to stop led police on a high-speed pursuit from which felony charges are forthcoming. CI6 also provided information and photos that led to a traffic stop that resulted in the arrest of an individual that was selling methamphetamine for the target. The driver was referred for possession with intent to deliver methamphetamine. Additionally, the passenger of that vehicle was arrested for possession of heroin-related drug paraphernalia. As the months wore on and the intelligence was being forwarded by CI6, relatively little feedback on how the case was developing was provided back to CI6. It would have been easy to give up hope that anything was being done. However, the informant, CI6, continued to reach out almost with daily updates. Although the aforementioned assistance was amazing, CI6's greatest contribution was to help in identifying one particular vehicle that was at the target's residence frequently. Because of CI6's description of the vehicle, that vehicle was located and stopped. This driver was arrested for possession of methamphetamine and other property-related crimes. The driver was interviewed and at the conclusion of the interview decided to become an operative for our great Jefferson County Drug Task Force. The driver was able to make several drug buys from this target. Eventually, a search warrant was obtained and a target residence was entered. Several grams of methamphetamine were found along with numerous items of drug paraphernalia and ingredients to potentially cook methamphetamine, a very dangerous situation. Additionally, the target of the warrant was a convicted felon and a rifle was recovered in the residence. The target admitted to a homicidal ideation related to the meth use. Law enforcement is very thankful for the assistance of this confidential informant CI6. Obviously, any contact with police that results in arrests has its potential for retaliation from the arrestee. CI6 put personal safety aside and assisted law enforcement to take a very dangerous drug dealer off the street and potentially help avert a very significant tragedy. In all, 5 different people were arrested and referred for a total of 6 felonies and 1 misdemeanor. None of this would have occurred without the help of confidential informant CI6. Therefore, the Law Enforcement Awards Committee respectfully has awarded CI6 the Citizen of the Year award. So it's kind of an odd one with CI6, but we will get that person awarded. This is exactly what we need when we talk about sheriff, police, and our citizen. We police together, and we need to be partners like that. So let's give it up for them. They're not here. So okay. So our next awards hold a very special meaning as they combine collaborative efforts between law enforcement and our great County Human Services Department headed by Kathy Cauley. So not only do they do emotional law enforcement services with our county, but they provide vital crisis intervention training to our officers. I know those sound like buzzwords, but it's a awesome training. My officers, all Sheriff's Department deputies, receive this training, and it's tremendously helpful in our community when we're dealing with people, especially people in mental health crisis. Those of you who are trained and understand this, understand what the value of this training, and this is something statewide I think you're going to be seeing some more of. So with that, I would like to welcome up our Health and Human Resources Director, Kathy Cauley, and also if I could get Sheriff Paul Milbrath and Detective Garcia to come on up. There's Kathy.
Thank you, Chief. Hello, everyone. I'm truly honored to be part of presenting the CIT Officer of the Year Award. We are so incredibly fortunate to have the partnerships that we do across the entire county. I want to stop just a minute here, though, and thank each and every one of you that serves in law enforcement. We depend on you at Human Services. We depend on you every day. Our communities depend on you every day. And I'm personally humbled by what I see you do every day. I offer a heartfelt, genuine thank you to all of you, and a fervent wish that each and every one of you receives the high honor and recognition that you deserve. So thank you. Today, though, we have 2 awards to present. 10 years ago, our Human Service Board created the CIT Officer of the Year Award, and our Human Service Board Chair is here, Supervisor Dick Jones. He came from Florida. But anyways, our board created this 10 years ago to recognize law enforcement officers who go above and beyond to assist residents of Jefferson County with mental health and substance use issues. As you know, CIT promotes finding appropriate and compassionate solutions while reducing the stigma of mental illness and the need for force and involvement with the criminal justice system. The goals of CIT training are to improve officer and consumer safety and to redirect individuals with mental illness from the judicial system to the healthcare system. In Jefferson County, we've partnered with the National Alliance on Mental Illness to deliver 9 40-hour CIT trainings. Our crisis emergency mental health manager is here today, Kim Propp. He's coordinated every single one of those. Multiple jurisdictions can now proclaim that all of their officers have completed CIT training, and this is incredibly impressive. So many kudos and many thanks to all of you. Today, we're recognizing 2 of these very special officers. Both are Jefferson County deputies, and both took heroic actions to save someone's life. So here to present the first award is Sheriff Milbrath. Oh, there you are. Ooh.
Now I can breathe again. I'll read my nomination letter. It was written to their Human Services and directed to Kathy Cauley. I would like to nominate Deputy Amy Hagge of the Jefferson County Sheriff's Office for actions on a CIT case involving an attempted suicide at Creamery Road, Fort Atkinson, Wisconsin. The subject involved, who I will leave out of this, resides over in the Bramblebush Lane area of Fort Atkinson. This individual, in an attempt to commit suicide, started a residence on fire, but due to the smoke overcoming her, she ended up jumping from a second-story window. Deputy Hagge was one of the responding deputies, and during that time, Deputy Hagge was searching for her. Deputy Hagge's report noted that she understood this person to have some serious mental health issues after finding her mother had hung herself several years prior. Deputy Hagge realized that this individual had numerous prior suicide attempts in the past, and that her best friend had also committed suicide next door to this individual, whom Deputy Hagge was looking for. Along the Creamery Road area, Deputy Hagge located the subject where she had previously lived and where the parent had killed themselves. Deputy Hagge found this individual and approached her with compassion, yet cautious, and found her crying and shaking, wearing no shoes and body covered in soot. She was able to convince this person to come with her to leave the residence that had created a lot of these emotional issues for her. The person stated that she wanted to kill herself and to be with her mother. However, Deputy Hagge was able to calm her down and advised her that she needed help and needed to move forward with her life, and that she was there to help her get that help. Deputy Hagge spent considerable amount of time with her. Deputy Hagge noticed that this individual was in pain and was able to get the whole story of how she got out of the residence and in the fall had hurt her leg. Deputy Hagge had contacted an ambulance who transported this person to the hospital for treatment and was able to contact her family as well as Human Services, whom she worked with in order to get an emergency detention order for this person to be admitted to Rogers. Due to the efforts and compassion of Deputy Hagge, this person is still alive today. Although it is my belief that she will have many years of counseling ahead of her, so she's able to work through these issues. But due to the efforts of Deputy Hagge, she will at least have that chance. Amy, if you could come forward. I have to be honest with you, I had to look up several times to see where Amy was, because normally I don't see her in this outfit.
It's a little more nerve-wracking than going to an armed robbery, standing up here talking in front of people. I just want to thank the Sheriff, Kathy, and the awards committee for selecting me as a recipient of this award. As a law enforcement officer, we all have a deep desire to help people. This is the reason I chose this career. We go 3 years at college, the Law Enforcement Academy, an FTO program, and continued education. None of the education and training can teach us the desire to want to help others. We often uphold the law, but we're also there when there's a crisis. I have learned it's sometimes best to allow your uniform badge to become transparent and let the person in need see you as someone more than just a law enforcement officer. We too are mothers, sisters, and daughters. This incident has taught me that policing can't always be taught, but to remember that we are all individuals and to rely on our heart and our passion to help others in need. To be compassionate and empathetic. This may require us to put our uniform aside and to be vulnerable with those needing our help. This incident has impacted me greatly and will forever stay with me. I am very proud to serve this community and I'm very grateful for the recognition. Thank you.
Alrighty, and here to present the second award is Sergeant Garcia.
This is the letter I wrote to Kathy for this award. I am submitting a nomination for the Crisis Intervention Technique Award for Deputy Bill Dandoy, who has attended the week-long CIT training as well as being a trained crisis negotiator. Others that aided in this complaint were Deputies Pete Patansky and Joe Franzen. The incident is as follows. On February 11th, 2020 at 6:46 a.m., dispatch received a call from the National Suicide Prevention Hotline informing us that a man had called them claiming he was suicidal and was walking down the road to a convenience store to get cigarettes and planning on stabbing himself. Soon afterwards, dispatch began receiving numerous phone calls regarding a man standing on the County Trunk F bridge over I-94 during morning rush hour, acting suspiciously and appearing to be contemplating jumping off the overpass bridge. Deputies Reason, Franzen, and Batansky were immediately sent out to check on the subject. As additional phone calls came in describing subject, later identified as Greg, appeared to be contemplating jumping over the edge of the bridge, Deputy Dandoy also responded to the scene as a crisis negotiator. Deputy Franzen attempted to make contact with Greg on the overpass of Highway F while maintaining distance from him, as it had been reported that he had a knife in his possession. Greg was acting very erratic, pacing back and forth and yelling, but Deputy Franzen could not understand what he was saying. Deputy Franzen attempted to yell to Greg in order to get his attention and keep him away from the edge of the Highway F overpass, but he continued to pace back and forth, telling Deputy Franzen not to get any closer. Greg continued to yell, saying he was going to jump off the bridge if Deputy Franzen got any closer. Deputy Franzen continued to inch closer to Greg in order to understand what he was saying. Greg then started to lift his leg up over the edge of the Highway F overpass, giving the appearance that he was going to jump off the bridge. Down on I-94, Deputy Franzen continued to approach. Deputy Franzen asked Greg if he had a cell phone that we could call him on, so we could talk to him while giving him space, and he said no. Deputies Patansky and Franzen were able to get the phone from the Squad 506 to Greg. Deputy Dandoy placed a call to the cell phone and began using crisis intervention techniques he learned through crisis intervention training. Deputy Dandoy spoke with Greg while they were both on the bridge 100 yards apart for 24 minutes. During that time, Greg made it clear that his intent was to kill himself. Greg was armed with a knife and said he was going to stab himself in the neck and throw himself over the overpass. Wisconsin State Patrol had closed down both eastbound and westbound lanes of traffic to protect the motoring public. Understand, this is like 7 in the morning on a weekday, so they're shutting down the interstate both ways. Greg began getting frustrated and told Deputy Dandoy he wanted Deputy Dandoy to walk up to him and talk to him in person. Deputy Dandoy explained to him that he needed to do that safely, as he didn't know him and he had a knife. Greg was very clear that if Deputy Dandoy did not come up to him within 1 minute with no weapons and alone, he was going to stab himself and throw himself over the edge of the bridge. In speaking with Greg, Deputy Dandoy told him he was coming towards him. Deputy Dandoy was wearing a gesso jacket, which also had a high visibility traffic vest on it, and told Greg to focus on him and not the other people around. Sergeant Shankin had followed Deputy Dandoy armed with less lethal. As Deputy Dandoy got closer to Greg, he put the phone down and also dropped the knife that was in his hands. Both of his hands were visible and he was crying. As Deputy Dandoy was several feet away from Greg, the expression on Greg's face was that of defeat and sorrow, and he slowly came towards Deputy Dandoy. He placed his head on Deputy Dandoy's shoulder and began to weep. Deputy Dandoy told Greg that he needed to check to make sure that he didn't have any other weapons on him, and Greg said that would be fine. He fully cooperated. Deputy Dandoy placed his arm around Greg's shoulder in what he would have perceived as a gesture of compassion. However, Deputy Dandoy's concern was he may change his mind and try to run from the side of the bridge and jump. Greg was completely compliant and walked back to the squad where he was placed in the back seat. Greg explained that he was very cold. He had been outside for hours. Deputy Dandoy eventually transported Greg to St. Agnes Hospital. During the trip, he slept almost the entire way to the hospital and was still very sleepy as they went through the registration process. Greg was left in the custody of mental health center staff. So I'd like to give Bill the CIT award.
I didn't prepare anything, and as those of you who know me know that can probably be dangerous. let me go on. I want to thank you, Sergeant Garcia, for the nomination, administration, but all the guys that I've worked with here. It's been over 25 years, and you all know that these incidences don't happen successfully usually from one person getting involved. It usually takes a team, and I tell you, with those guys, the setup that they did on that bridge, Deputy Franzen and Deputy Batansky and Reason, the troopers getting that traffic shut down up there. Detective Curtis was there with me. He was my co-pilot on this call here, and they all did an outstanding job. The only thing I want to say about this particular incident here, and Detective Sergeant Garcia, I've known you with so many hats on over the years. There was some risk involved in this. When he told me that I had 1 minute, I had a decision to make. And the decision was that I was going to move forward and I was going to go out there. I had excellent deputies providing cover for me. I knew that I had to take a little bit of a chance. My daughters, Julia and Lauren, are standing over here, and my wife wasn't able to make it today, but I've got a good life at home, and sometimes though you gotta take a risk for somebody. Now, I know that later found out that this person, who we know as Greg, he's led a pretty rough life, and he's had a lot of issues, and he was up on that bridge because his decisions eventually led to a point in life where things weren't looking so good. So of course you go out there for the individual. You want to give. You don't know who you're dealing with all the time, and you're also looking out for the people who are driving down there. But I later had contact with Greg's mom. She calls me her angel because I saved her son. We did. You take those chances because to somebody out there, to a family member, to a close friend, many of us have felt the sting of suicide. Whether it's been a call that we've been on or whether it's been somebody that we know. Most of you have been at this agency or been in law enforcement in this county long enough. You've known people that have worn this uniform. Life is short. To Greg's mom, this meant everything. So we sometimes have to take those chances. This time it worked out. Actually, this is the second person I've talked off I-94. I'm feeling when I retire, they're going to be calling me up if there's any other jumpers on I-94. It's worked out to this point, but it's important. And for the other deputies in here, or officers that I've had the pleasure of working with all these years, this stuff is obviously it's important to take that time, invest in the people out there, and I've learned so much from all of you. So thanks again for the award. Appreciate it very much, and thanks to all my teammates out there. You guys really are some of the best in law enforcement, and appreciate working with you. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone, for your efforts. Not just as law enforcement, as Deputy Hagge said, or as Deputy Dandoy said, but servants and guardians. They're truly part of our job. So thank you both. Awesome, just awesome work. So I have the privilege, being the 2020 president of the Jefferson County Chiefs and Sheriff Association, of making a selection for the President's Award. And I received a nomination from somebody who's become a mentor of mine and a good friend of mine, Chief Deputy Jeff Parker. And I would like to read it to you. This is for a nomination for the President's Award, Sergeant Jason Beam. I'm writing this letter of nomination to recommend Sergeant Jason Beam of the Jefferson County Sheriff's Office to be considered for the Jefferson County Chiefs and Sheriff Association 2020 President's Award. I write this letter of recommendation with a great sense of honor and pride, for it is written under circumstances that reflect the greatest character and honor a supervisor can demonstrate towards his or her subordinates, the desire to protect them, to make sure they go home to their family at the end of their shift, to put their own life in danger, to save another's life if needed, taking those risks. This act describes Sergeant Jason Beam on June 16th, 2020 at approximately 6:20 p.m. Sergeant Beam was the on-duty supervisor working a 12:30 p.m. to 11 p.m. shift. During his shift at approximately 5:55 p.m., a call was dispatched to an area squad for a possible break-in of a rural farmhouse. Deputy Joseph Franzen was the responding unit. A short while later, every sergeant's worst nightmare came true. The words over the radio by one of his deputies, Deputy Franzen, yelling, shots fired," following a pause, then returning fire. Sergeant Beam immediately activated his lights and siren and responded in emergency mode to the location of his deputy. While in transit, he started to listen and gain additional information. He listened to his deputies that had also arrived on the scene start to communicate with one another. Are you hit? Are you hit? Where are you located? He heard that Deputy Franzen had not been shot, but was receiving quote unquote cover from placing himself in an adjacent ditch across the street by the mailboxes. Sergeant Beam also had received information that the house was now on fire and totally engulfed in flames. Sergeant Beam arrived on scene approximately 9 minutes after Deputy Franzen's shots fired call, a time that must have felt like an eternity. Sergeant Beam arrived at Highway 106 and Highway A. He could observe Deputy Franzen's squad car parked in the driveway. Sergeant Beam asked Deputy Franzen for his location. Deputy Franzen responded that he was in a ditch by the mailboxes across from the house. Sergeant Beam, fully understanding the danger of the situation and the fact that the shooter could still be on scene, had a choice to make. Does he leave his deputy pinned down in a vulnerable position, or does he make an attempt to put himself in harm's way and rescue his own deputy? Sergeant Beam chose the latter. Sergeant Beam drew his service weapon from his holster and rolled the window down on the driver's side of his squad. Driver's side would be on the side of the road facing the suspect's burning house. He kept his service weapon trained on the possible threat located near the residence as he drove northbound up on Highway A. Sergeant Beam radioed to Deputy Franzen that he would be traveling down the highway to extract him from the hot zone. As he drove up Highway A, Sergeant Beam frantically called out, "Joe," trying to locate him for his cover point. At first, he drove past the cover point and had to reverse his direction. Finally, he observed Deputy Franzen. Deputy Franzen jumped on the doorframe of the front passenger door and maintained cover as Sergeant Beam, driving in reverse, sped backwards towards Highway 106 with Deputy Franzen on board. Once Sergeant Beam returned to the intersection of Highway A and 106, he did a buddy check on Deputy Franzen, checking for any signs of medical injuries and initial signs of emotional trauma. After conducting his initial medical assessment, he received a situation report from Deputy Franzen, gaining as much intelligence as he could. Sergeant Beam now became the incident commander until relieved by a higher-ranking officer. As the incident commander, he now took over the deployment of the drone to gather intelligence of the deceased victims, as well as a cognitively disabled man that was wandering around on the property. He initiated the SWAT team response, set up a staging area for fire and EMS. He deployed with SWAT to secure the disabled man and check on the medical status of the deceased. Lastly, he ensured a buddy officer was assigned to Deputy Franzen to ensure his emotional and physical well-being. Now, some may say that Sergeant Beam was just doing his job. As a matter of fact, I know that's exactly what he would tell you. But I would beg to differ. As a chief deputy, I would tell you that my sergeant went above and beyond the call of duty. He displayed a strong act of bravery and courage without hesitation or delay. I would say that he was willing to place his own life in danger in order to protect and save the life of his troops, and for that I say he is a noble man worthy of recognition. Think about this situation. Minimally, the sergeant knows someone is dead. There's an active shooter. His deputy's being shot at. His deputy is returning fire. Deputy is poor cover point at best, laying in a ditch. Sergeant is unaware where the shooter is located. Deputy is in danger and needs to be saved. Sergeant doesn't hesitate. Sergeant puts his own life at risk to save the life of his subordinate. To me, this sergeant is the definition of a hero. Thank you for your time and consideration. And regarding this nomination, respectfully submitted Chief Deputy Jeff Parker. Sergeant Beam, job well done. Please step up here. Right, there he is.
Like Deputy Dandoy, I didn't prepare anything, but I'm going to keep this real brief because my friends and coworkers know that once I get a hold of the microphone, this can go a bunch of different ways as well. Sometimes even involving like karaoke. So I'll try to shy away from that. I'm just going to keep this real brief. Just a couple of thoughts. I wish we could take these awards and break them up into a few hundred pieces and give a little bit of it to each of our wives and husbands. Our family is what sends us out every day. They're the ones that deserve the award. It kind of came to a head after this was all wrapped up, this incident. So I'm not going to go over the details again. It was pretty detailed, but so it happened early afternoon, early evening, and by the time we got the scene settled down and we got everybody out there, it was late evening, and we were now working on a follow-up investigation on this overnight. And by overnight, I mean all night. I finally came back here at, it was late morning, early afternoon the next day. And at that point, it had been up for closing in on, 36, 48 hours, whatever it may have been. And the admin said, take time off. You've been through a lot right now. Take tomorrow off. You can flex your time around, whatever. So my wife, Cherie, and I went out for dinner that night, and I started kind of reliving stuff with her, about what happened the day before. And as we're sitting at dinner, I tried to relive that stuff kind of gingerly with her because she's a cop, but she's also my wife, so I don't want her freaking out sometimes on some of the stuff I see and do. So I was going through kind of what we did, and as we were sitting at dinner, in mid-sentence, I get a text from Joe's wife, and it said, I'm just paraphrasing here, but it said, "Thank you so much for bringing my husband home. I owe you everything. You're appreciated more than you'll ever know." And at that point, the emotions of the entire incident and the weight and gravity kind of really hit me because, we look at it as law enforcement officers and we go, wow, that was some crazy stuff. We've been through this together. And then you think about the family and what they go through, not knowing what we're heading into every day and just praying that we're going to come home in one piece. So out of all the awards that you've seen today, I think the families should be recognized equally as well. So thank you for the awards committee for the selection. Much appreciated.
All right. So this pretty much is going to conclude our formal portion of the award ceremony. I'm really glad that Jason brought up our families who are here with us today because they lived through this stuff with us. The horrors, those things that we lived through, they're scared. And every day we just want to come home in one piece. And I started this off with the amount of compassion, the bravery, the courage demonstrated by all these award recipients and by all the officers that are in this room today and all the officers that serve our communities in this county. You should be proud of all of them. We have a great bunch of people. I couldn't be more proud to be part of this team. I say that with the utmost sincerity. We have a really great team, and rest assured, when these people are out on the road at old dark 30, you're in good hands. You can sleep tight at night knowing you got some really great deputies and officers out there. So on behalf of, I would request if you can, if you have time to stay afterwards, please offer congratulations. I got a handwritten note from Steve who would like to have pictures of the award recipients. So if you wouldn't mind rallying up out there afterwards, it would be great. Special thank you to our Honor Guard members for coming out today. Really appreciate it. Nice, great job. So thank you so much. Two of mine had to take off because somebody's got to cover the city tonight. So, again, at the end of the day, the Jefferson County Sheriff's Office has graciously made some refreshments that are available after the ceremony. So I would also want to make sure that I don't because as you can see, I wing these things. This is not my forte. I try. But again, a thank you to the awards committee. Bob Kaminsky, thank you, Chief, for what you've done. Chief Sorensen, thank you for what you've done. And DA Monica, wherever you're at over there, thank you for this, all the work that you've put in. It's been an honor and a privilege. So earlier this morning, I was voted out. I wasn't impeached. I was voted out as a, Bob Kaminsky, these are 2-year deals. So my time ran out from Watertown is now our new president of the Jefferson County Chiefs and Sheriff Association, and Chief Mixell from Lake Mills is now our new vice president. So with that, thank you all. And thank you all for coming, and to family members, thank you for letting us have these great people every day. Thanks so much.
Yeah, cake and all kinds of snacks over here, so please come enjoy the